In this lesson, we are starting with stage 5, making the grid responsive. In the project meeting for this webpage, you were asked to make it responsive so it looks as good in both small and large displays. The grid layout you defined in the first stage of this project is best suited to large displays. In this stage of the project, you will use media queries to create the layout for smaller displays, in which each element simply stacks on top of one to the next. We intentionally left out this process for the very end because CSS you define the middle stages to make it much easier to see the true effects of the changing grid. So we're going to define the name grid areas. When you created this file, you defined the new HTML5 page without using a framework such as Bootstrap. Basic HTML pages do not include built-in media queries, so you need to define your own to change the grid layout to a different display width. Okay, now I am not going to repeat doing all the coding in this stage because it's quite long and quite tedious. So I have already completed this section, but I'm still going to walk you through it just so you know what needs to be done. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is be on indexed HTML. You want to be in live view, and you want to scroll down enough to be able to see the first section of the photo with the text right below the video itself. Okay, once you have done that, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the scrub bar to the right here and drag well, what you're going to do is drag left until you make the display window narrower, and the scrub bar is right here, so I would do this and just drag it to make it the display narrower, and you'll see what's happening right at the top. And where you want to drag it to is to the 991, which is where you see mine right now. Okay, once you have done that, all you need to do is click. You will notice right below the 991 a plus sign that you're going to click, and you're going to open the dialog box by the plus, and you're going to create a new media query at this breakpoint of 991. Okay, and that's going to be max width, and you're going to choose what you do is you go in the drop down box and choose grid style CSS, and then click OK. And what happens is if you open up grid styles, you will see indeed what it did is down at the bottom is it created a new app media for you of the 991 pixels. Now I've already got it, so I'm going to take this out. And then let's do a Control S to save our work. And then what you're going to do is you're going to place your insertion port between the opening braces of the grid query. And you are going to type in everything you see on page 368, which is the logo, and you're going to assign each one of these a letter. So the grid area for logo will be L, the grid area for the H1 will be H, the grid area for video will be V, and you're going to go clear down to the footer and the closing bracket. Now be very, very careful if you misspell, if you put a semicolon instead of a colon in the wrong places, if you put more than one space anywhere, any of that will mess it up. So type as carefully as possible. Pause this video until you're done, and then come back to the video, and then we will talk about the next area. Okay, now let's talk about the next area. Once you have all of what we just did done, you're going to hit enter and start a new one called grid wrap. Now the maximum width you're going to make is 90%, which means it's going to leave 10% extra space around it. and you're going to build the actual grid template. Now keep in mind, in the other chapter that we did, have build it for us, but in this we have to build it and tell it how many columns that each area is going to fill. So we're going to build a maximum width of 90 and the grid template area, and you put these inside of single quotation marks, and the first one is the logo, the second one is the H1, the third one is the video, the fourth is the text one, and then the image 1, the text 2, the image 2, the text 3, the image 3, and the footer. And you need to type all of that in. This lays out the actual grid for the 991 or less grid size that we are building for the smaller grid size. Okay. Once you have done all of that, what you're going to do is you're going to click over to the content styles, okay, and go down to the bottom. And what you're going to do is put in your new app media, maximum width 991. Okay, you're going to put the font size for your header and your font size for text 1, but you are also adding the column, this is for your column count to make sure that it reads correctly no matter which browser it is. So you're going to have to put in your Mozilla and your WebKit and your regular column count all as one, because we are not, with a smaller browser size, going to have two. Once you have done all of that, go up and do a file save. All you have now built the very last portion of this chapter, which is the actual grid layout for the smaller size. So do a file save all. And then the very, very last thing you need to do is also export the melon.ste. So you have that as well. And once you have done that, you have completed this chapter. Don't forget to do your review questions and the rest of and your homework, which is your portfolio builder project. And anyway, thanks a lot.